David Allen here from the Patron team. I'm in the Tequila Test Kitchen here in my home in Austin, Texas, quarantining with a heck of a quarantine. I've got myself, my incredible husband Joe, and our beautiful Anatolian shepherd Queso. Now, Queso is a signature dish of the Tex Mex food canon, but it might even not be quite as famous as the nacho. And that's what we're making tonight. You may be familiar with a bean and cheese nacho, even a fajita nacho, but tonight we're making brisket nachos. This is like the official appetizer of our home. And we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna fry up some tortillas. You can buy commercial chips, but we like to make them ourselves. You just take good quality corn tortillas, cut them in half, and fry them in vegetable oil. We're gonna make some refried beans and spread the beans onto the tortillas, and then we're gonna plate them up with some brisket. We got some choice cuts here from our friends over at Franklin Barbecue. A little bit of barbecue sauce, some cheese, melt it, throw it in the oven. It's gonna be delicious. Let's get started. The first step in making the brisket nachos is to make refried black beans. Traditionally, you'd make like an old school pot of black beans and then refry them. We're actually going to fast forward and use a little bit of a hack by using a can of black beans, and then we'll season it up ourselves with some onion, some garlic, jalapeno, tomato, and then we'll kick it off with a little bit of chopped bacon. We call the dish brisket nachos, but it's easy to make it a vegetarian dish. You can, instead of, in this first step with the beans, instead of using bacon to get some fat in there, just use some olive oil and saute your vegetables just in olive oil to make it a vegetarian dish, and skip the brisket at the end, or use another protein to your liking, turkey or something like that. Refried beans are a very common staple of Tex-Mex cooking, but it's a bit of a misnomer because it implies that they're fried twice. They're really not. Usually you just make a pot of beans, and then in that second step you get some oil in the skillet and then fry them up. Okay, so I fried the bacon for about 5 minutes. We're not cooking it all the way through, but letting it get a little bit crispy and rendering out some of that fat so we can saute the vegetables. So here goes onion. This is like one medium-sized onion. I've got one pretty sizable jalapeno that we've taken the ribs and the seeds out of. A couple heads of garlic, a couple cloves of garlic. Oh my god, it smells so good. Really good. We'll give this like 1 minute. After the onions, the garlic, the peppers have had a second to sweat a bit, we'll throw in the tomato and the seasoning and the beans. Get some cumin, Mexican oregano. We're going to salt it pretty generously with kosher salt. Tiny pinch of chili powder. Little black pepper. We're gonna let this simmer, and in the meantime make a margarita. While the beans are simmering, I'm gonna make a cocktail for myself and my quarantine mate. One of our favorite drinks is the essential Texas cocktail, or Austin, Texas cocktail, I should say. Of course, it's the Mexican martini. Tonight I'm gonna do it with some Patron Silver. It's a 2-to-1. Fresh lime juice. Just a tiny bit of simple syrup. serving this cocktail up in the traditional way in a stemmed cocktail glass. And garnished with jalapeno stuffed olives. Joseph, I have something special for you, for your service behind the camera today and always. A little Mexican martini.
Cheers.
Delicious. Let's go check on the beans. These beans are starting to look really good. They've been simmering for maybe 7-8 minutes. I'm gonna stir it up and then taste it, adjust the seasoning real quick. Really good. Now, usually we do this with black beans. We're in the quarantines. So I added a can of pinto beans. I only have 1 can of black beans. I'm gonna give it a little bit more of this Mexican oregano. Tiny bit more cumin. A little bit more salt. Stir it up one more time. The next thing we do is we're going to kill the heat and we're just going to puree the beans using an immersion blender. Be careful with this. It can be very hot soup, right? If you don't have an immersion blender, you could do this in a stand mixer, like your Vitamix or Oster or whatever you have. So the beans are 90% or something like that pureed. I'm going to put the heat back on just to thicken them a bit. While the beans are thickening up, we're going to fry the tortillas to make our chips. Alright, so these chips have been frying like barely a minute. They're really starting to crisp up. Pull them out of the oil, drain it off a little bit. We set them on a tray with a few paper towels. And it's important to salt and season the chips while they're still hot. Kosher salt. A little bit of chili powder. And cumin. Alright, this is coming along really nicely, folks. We're almost there. In just a minute, we're going to build the nachos. So while I was getting the components ready to build the nachos, Joe thickened up these beans and they look really, really good. I've got the refried black beans, a little barbecue sauce, shredded cheddar cheese, or we call it longhorn cheddar here in Texas, and some incredible kind of 1-inch chunks of brisket. To build the nacho, you put a little bit of the black bean puree onto the chip. Tiny, just like a, quarter teaspoon or something, a few drops of barbecue sauce, a piece of brisket on there, and then you cover it with cheese. The idea is to keep it all separate. You've probably seen the nacho pile that was just like a big stack of stuff. We call these composed nachos, and that's a very traditional way to make the nachos in Texas. Man, there's a lot of work here. Joe, do you mind helping me? We got nachos to eat, and I'm getting hungry. Here, I'll do beans, you do. Everything's smelling good, looking good. We've got this tray of brisket nachos. The oven's been heating up to 400. I think it's about time to put these suckers in. Can we check on these nachos? Oh wow, they look really good. This is coming along really nicely. We've pulled our nachos out of the oven. And now we're just gonna plate them, garnish it with a little bit of sour cream. We'll give it some pickled jalapenos or fresh jalapenos if you like a little kick. And some fresh cilantro, maybe a little drizzle of barbecue sauce. I like to give it just a couple little drops here and there of that barbecue sauce that we had. A little zing, a little tang. All right, I've got some fresh salsa here. We'll put right in the middle there. It has been an incredible pleasure having you here tonight with us on Academia Live. These are our brisket nachos. We'll see you next time.